And here we go. So welcome to the Thrive in EDU on Learning Revolution, and starting off a little bit different today than other times where I usually have a slide and do the intro and talk about myself and let my guests introduce themselves. But we'll just chat today without all of the slides for right now and get started. But I will say, make sure that you go to learningrevolution.com, sign up for an account, do something on Twitter, add the hashtag Learning Revolution, follow Jaime or myself. And some of you have been here for the last couple of weeks, so welcome back. And if you don't know, my name is Rachelle Dene Poth. I'm a Spanish and STEAM teacher, also an attorney and an author from right outside of Pittsburgh. And I've been teaching for a long time. And I don't want to talk too much about myself because I want to save all of the time for Jaime, who is one of my favorite people, if not my favorite person in the entire world. Jaime Donally is here to talk to us about all things AR, VR, MR, XR, whatever you want to call it. So Jaime, I will let you tell everybody about you.
All right, thank you, Rachelle. This is very cool. So glad to connect with you all that are joining in. And I even see some folks joining in from different parts of the country. New York and Florida and coming from Pennsylvania. I am joining in from Texas, so I'm getting ready for a hurricane. So that's interesting. But thankfully I live pretty inland, and I think when it reaches us, it will be Category 1, which I've never been in a Category 1 hurricane. So let's hope for the best for our state and Louisiana, because it's bracing for this next crazy event here. But in light of that, I don't think I'll lose internet or power anytime soon. It might be tomorrow, but not today, thankfully. And it's just been a crazy road. I think AR and VR is really kind of what connected. Well, Rachelle and I connected, I think, under this topic initially, and then later with one of the companies that we both connect with, Nearpod, we were able to connect at one of their events, and we just hit it off. You know, it's just really neat to connect with people that, you know, for me, I'm coming in and sharing this awesome technology and how can this be used. And Rachelle was the one that actually did it in the classroom. Like, she would hear it that day and next day use it with her students, and her students were just loving it. And then I got to witness kind of was it sustainable? Was it something that can be used? And you know, from the outside perspective, we always think, oh, this is gonna be great. Our kids are gonna love this. And then you give it to the kids and you really see, is this something that they're gonna love? I mean, I would have never thought in a million years Minecraft would be a thing. Like, I remember I was doing, this is so funny because, you know, I had somebody approach me a long time ago and said, you know, hey, I was actually teaching math at the time. And they were like, hey, I know we have like coaches that coach our kids golf. And then we have, you know, these different, you know, trainings for this, or we have this for our kids, gymnastics, and they get this extra support in math and whatever, right? She goes, but you know, what if my kids can get like technology training? So she had me come over once a week, and I was literally just coming up with the crazy technology of what was going on. And once it was like doing, you know, essentially like tutorials with them once a week. And it was a blast because it was a variety of ages. And they had 3 kids, and we just did a lot of fun stuff. And I remember one time her son was like, hey, check out what I'm doing. And it was on his computer, and he showed me Minecraft. And I was like, why? Why do you want to do this? Like, the graphics stink, you know? Like, why are you wanting to go back to a cube when you got this amazing graphics over here, amazing play? Like, this is boring. Why would you want to do this? And what I've learned in the process of Minecraft, that we've all seen kind of the evolution of it, is that kids love to interact. They love to create. They love to showcase what they build. And I think those same kinds of concepts apply across the board in any technology that we're bringing into the classroom. So while I didn't initially think that would ever be a thing, it was, and it blew up and has continued to go strong. And you know, something that maybe us as educators look at and just dismiss immediately, giving it to our students or letting our students kind of help us evolve into what we're bringing into the classroom, I think is way more beneficial for them and for your classroom, because when they're excited about learning with whatever you're bringing to the table, whether that be technology or not, But when they're excited about learning, they'll soar. You know, it's just really giving them and empowering them to do it. And Rachelle is the prime example of that. I reference her all the time because she does it. She, you know, she's like, I don't know all the answers, but I'm going to try it and see what they can do. And she does. She gives it back to her students, and her students just are incredible.
Yes, I often say, like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
You don't need to know everything. And I often jump into things and I'm like, haven't run into that before. Let's see, you know, that's technology for you.
But it's so uncomfortable because we're perceived, we're in the front of the room, we're supposed to know everything, you know, just because I use technology, they're like, but you know everything. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I forget who I told this to a couple of weeks ago, but I wanted to see the space shuttle whenever they were coming back. I wanted to see it. And I have not turned my TV on. I've turned it off. Well, it's been a long time, but I have not actually turned it on in a really long time. And so I saw, you know, on Twitter that it was streaming live and I wanted to go and watch it. So anyway, I picked up the remote. I had no idea what channel to even look for or anything. And I was so thankful that it had what I recognized as like the microphone button so I could talk. And I just said what I wanted it to find, and it found the channel. I was like, oh my goodness, if my students would see me now, like they would be thinking like, you don't know how to turn the channel or turn the TV on, but you can't make those assumptions about us as teachers, but we also tend to make the assumptions about students that, oh, well, they're on their phone and they know how to do all of these different things, or they have these skills. And a lot of times what I find, and I love about my 8th grade STEAM classes, they don't. And as much as I have that I could teach them, they have so much more that I can learn from them too, especially when it comes to some of these augmented virtual reality things. I remember years ago starting with Metaverse or with CoSpaces and them asking me questions, and I had no idea of the answer. And I was just like, you know, you got to work on it a little bit. You'll figure it out. And I'm thinking, please let them figure it out so they can tell me because I didn't know. And they're so fast with it. I mean, even at the end of this past school year, whenever you came in as our guest speaker and the students, I was thankful that you were there because the 2 weeks prior when I tried to do it, they clearly didn't even need me. They were off doing their own thing, but it's nice to be able to kind of work with them and learn with them and have fun. But it can be uncomfortable if you don't know all there is to know about it. But
and you really can't, because every minute, even if you say, oh, I finally got Metaverse down. I just went back into Metaverse a couple weeks ago and I was like, oh, it's totally different. You know, I mean, it changes and it's constantly changing. Every tool all the time is going to be updated. I just shared Merge last week and it was like, okay, all these things happening in the dashboard that I have never touched on before. It's always learning. There's never going to be a time we all know those answers. I mean, it's just a reality of it. And, you know, it's learning for our kids too, because think about it, especially now, we're asking them to know. I mean, my daughter is home with me right now because she went to school and then was exposed and then started to feel sick and then had to go get tested. And now there's like this quarantine time between the time she gets back her results. So we're trying to figure out how to do online learning with the way that it was set up. But it's like, but that's not what I'm doing in my classroom. We haven't even covered that. So then it's like, wait, scramble. So we're asking our kids to constantly, you know, go on this journey of never being comfortable. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think, you know, you kind of just prepare them for always learning. And that, I think, is the challenge, whether it be any tool, whether it be technology or not, right? Like there's going to be things that our kids are going to have to approach, and we have to approach with that open to learning, never shutting down, and just continuously growing in the process.
Yeah. And I guess maybe like if I could do a poll, I would, but not going to do a poll right now. But maybe for anybody who is new to AR, VR, could you kind of just give an explanation of the differences? I could do it, but I would rather have you do it. No, I'm kidding. But just if somebody needs to grasp, like, what's the difference, or where do I even begin with this, to give some people some ideas?
Yeah, you know, I on my end, I will just say with AR and VR, my first chance of using that technology was really before that term was out there in the public. I remember taking my son's DS and doing augmented reality because I was shooting holes in the wall. My walls were exploding, and then behind my walls was space. And I just remember going, how is this happening right now? And I'm getting close into space and looking at it, and it was like Jumanji. I mean, it was just this freaky, like, how is this happening? And I never connected the dots with AR. And I remember doing 360s a long time ago and really being an advocate of doing 360 experiences with kids, never talking about it on the VR side, never had a clue. I just remember being fascinated with what it was and doing these kind of sphere experiences. And so I think that we've all seen kind of this technology coming in, and maybe we don't know the terminology. Maybe we're not using the right terminology with what we're experiencing. But the truth of the matter is, it kind of doesn't matter if you're using the right terminology or not. You know, this technology is growing. And I want to say under the bigger umbrella, this immersive technology, Rachelle called it XR, just kind of like all realities, right? And you're taking these different concepts under this umbrella of immersive technology, and you're seeing these things used in different ways. And there used to be this battle, like, which one's better, AR or VR? Ooh, VR's better. No, AR's better. Oh, well, why? And it was like, wait a minute. Neither are better. They both do some great stuff. And it really depends on what you're trying to get out of this and finding your goals and putting the right stuff in place. So while I can sit here for the next, I don't know, I can literally spend probably the next 24 hours and every hour talk about every tool and say, I'll be back next week. Let's do this again. And the week after, and let's do this again. And I do it weekly already, right? We already go through every Wednesday night, we go through a new tool. We go through new updates. We kind of just explore. It's like a little mini PD session. There's no way to cover everything coming out because it's coming out so quick. And it's enormous, and there's just so many great applications. But what I would say, if you're going to get started in this immersive technology area, to really understand what your goals are, what you want to accomplish in it, and as you're looking, be specific. I can't tell you how many times somebody's been like, well, this is what we need, and I can't find anything for this. And when they give me kind of that criteria, this standard of which they're trying to accomplish, that's so much easier to go out and find what you're looking for. And I can tell you 9 times out of 10, you find it. In the rare occasion you don't, it's kind of like a loose tie-in. Here's some possibilities, but there is something out there for everything. So it's really encouraging to see that, you know, our kids have an opportunity to learn this way. It's not the only way. Certainly shouldn't ever be the only way. It is one of those ways, one of those possibilities to help bridge that learning for them, and maybe a way that it would be impossible without the technology. I can't bring my kids to the moon. That's just not possible today. But, you know, I can bring them to the moon by going on these immersive experiences and through AR and VR, and give them a taste that's much more realistic than a textbook or just watching a video of somebody else. So I think that personalized experience is the opportunities we have today by the limitations we have, and just really, you know, having this chance to bring that stuff in, make those connections for the kids.
Yeah, it's, I was thinking about the one a couple of weeks ago, and I wrote it down. Is it Learn Right Now? Is it Learn?
Mm-hmm.
It is? Okay, because I was thinking every time I would say that in my mind, that's what I was actually talking about
Right.
to the guy I teach with. But I kept thinking of the thing from when we were kids, or, well, I didn't have one, but like the light bright or whatever.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that was. I never had one.
Yeah.
All my friends had one, I never had one. But
I think my cousin did, and I played with hers, and I never got one myself. I think you're right. I'm in the same boat.
But I kept thinking, I'm like, that can't be the right name, but just the capabilities that are out there with it. And I know that I was so excited to start teaching about AR/VR with my STEAM class. And I remember that I was going to start with augmented reality. And so I was trying to explain to them what it was and give kind of a definition a little bit. And they're like, we know all about it. We do that. It's boring. It's Snapchat. I was like, it's not really just Snapchat or something, you know? And I said, okay, what's another example? And a lot of them knew about like Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
And some people will think about IKEA, that, okay, I want to remodel my kitchen, or I'm thinking about new furniture.
Or Amazon today. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And but I don't want to do the hour drive to IKEA and all that time. But wow, it's awesome. I can look at the app on my phone and just see what it looks like in that space. And also you say it like going to the moon or anything. I mean, can we, well, I mean, maybe someday we can, but what about the things that we can use that students can actually hold it? So I always keep my merge cube within reaching distance, you know, so for me, oh, there we go. As a kid, trying to remember the planets and the solar system, or think about the layers of the earth or anything like that. And we didn't have this kind of stuff when I was a kid. So that was a struggle for me, but the hands-on, being able to manipulate it and look at it and see, or to have fun. Like my students, the first thing that they do is they hold the merge cube up. And so the next thing you know is like their friend's head is the sun, they got all the planets, or it's the layers of the earth or something like that, but they connect with it more. Or even in geometry, I probably wouldn't have gotten F's for the first couple of 9 weeks if I would have had a merge cube to look at the shapes and the angles and to make that connection with it. But so I always think about, you know, merge is great, especially now in distance learning. It's something that teachers, families can use because they can make the printable one and use it at home and kind of scan and try it out. So if you can't actually access the devices, and of course worrying about cleaning devices too, especially at this time, having something like that where everybody can have their own merge cube at home and you go from there. But yeah, it's a lot of fun to learn and see all the benefits. So I am leaving this all up to you.
Okay.
If you want to show some different tools for people, and
sure, I'll just mention,
oh my gosh, there's so many.
Well, you mentioned merge, so I think that's really important, the stuff that they're doing right now with Object Viewer and bringing in the 3D assets that we have access to, and really identifying all those teaching aids like you were talking about, having, you know, the geometric shapes and making the connections with the planets, for instance, or ocean life, or, you know, the body systems, and there's all these different things. And I really am just amazed. They have almost 1,000 different teaching aids in one cube now inside of their library. And I mean, they valued it at over $10,000 worth of teaching aids in one cube. If you think about how enormous that is, and the access that we're limited by, and like you said, printing these out, if we don't have access, maybe we have it printed on cardstock and we send those home with the kids, right? Maybe we ask them to print something out. Maybe we give them a link to a 3D version of the merge cube and they're doing it, a view through their computer, you know, so who knows how they're going through those experiences. But at the end of the day, our kids are just so eager to explore. And when we give it to them, like, you know, bringing them to go do a dinosaur dig, you know, those kids that get to dig dinosaurs, you know, like the bones that have been placed in there on purpose, and, you know, that they get to go and find it and exploring that and discovering that, you know, there for that kid, they own it. That's personal to them. Oh, that tool won't work there, but it will work here. And this is the way I need to make sure I don't break this bone. And how do I go around this? And how do, you know, so that whole process of learning that physical aspect of it. And sometimes we can't go and do that. Sometimes I lived near Santa Cruz in California, and there was a spot where you can go dig for dinosaur bones. Like there's this designated spot people would go and bring their students to. I don't think I've ever seen that. And I've lived all across the country in different places, but I don't think I've ever seen that again. But you know, how many opportunities we have, even in the Merge Cube, to play that dig game where you can actually go and dig for dinosaur bones and go and explore what the tools you're using and where is that found around the world, and making those connections for those kids. It becomes personal. It's not somebody else's dig. It's not somebody else's video anymore. It's a personal experience for them to take in and do. So yeah, I'll definitely screen share if you're all right with that. Some tools that I think will be really helpful for you guys. And I'll place the link here for you if you want to follow along with me as I'm screen sharing what this looks like. But this is something that I spent a whole month compiling during the pandemic in March. It was just one of those really interesting experiences because I knew a lot of the things that I was going to cover. But when it came down to it, you know, it was, there was just various times that it was like, okay, well, where, you know, let me go back here. When you go here, you know, it was just kind of like, where do you begin, you know? So I'm bringing you to the 31 days of AR, VR, and EDU recap, because last March I started this, And then every single day there was a blog about a new product, new updates happening. And in the process, you know, compiled this document for you. All of them are linked up to each of the blogs. It really goes through some videos of how to use this, personal videos that I put together to demo stuff, images, direct links to the app to go and download, and really all the resources you would need to get started. So day one was Merge, and Merge had some announcements that they were pulling in some of their apps into their Explorer app. Oculus with kind of exploring different VR headsets and using some of the tools. Dramatic AR is just a really great augmented reality writing tool where you write a story, handwrite a story, and when you scan it, it comes to life in 3D. It's animated by your adjectives, so which is just really neat to see what your students, what stories they'll want to write based upon the experiences that are populated from that. Minecraft Earth came out. We talked about the beauty of Minecraft and how it's really captured our students, and this being augmented reality, actually building in your space, playing these adventures. Just like before, the students, what are they enticed by? Kids enticed by? They're enticed by their build, showing it off, sharing it with other people, inviting other people to join in and help build. Same concepts apply with Minecraft Earth. And but you're bringing people into that augmented reality with you. So Dr. Seuss came out with their very first augmented reality experience, and that's using Dr. Seuss ABC. So there's just enormous. Mel Kids blows you away. This kit right here, this maker kit that just blows your mind. It just brings you through augmented reality, but you also have the book, which is very comic book style. And then you also have the physical product that you have to put together to help solve this problem. And you're learning in the process. It was just a blast. I did this with my family and we were all just so excited about it. Scavenger, you're going to be hearing a lot more about that company as time goes on. I think you guys will really be excited about augmented reality scavenger hunts. Hubs, Rachelle was talking about this earlier, kind of meeting in this virtual reality space, completely free. Even customizable on what your space looks like, which is great. Gravity Sketch, a VR game inside of, in this case, Oculus Quest, building and developing 3D assets in virtual reality, and then exporting that out in your space to be able to use in AR and VR and whatever else you use your 3D objects in. So, I mean, I can go through all this stuff. There's just an enormous amount of resources here for you to go back through. And what I would just challenge you with is really identifying, you know, what you want to get out of this, because every tool is going to offer something different. I do the research and going out and trying to find all these crazy tools, and then I bring it back. And then I hope that, you know, people can put it to use for various circumstances. Not all of them apply to everybody, but you may find, wow, I've been looking for the Curiscope multiverse forever. I've needed to show the students the different layers of the earth, and they needed to see these posters come to life in my classroom instead of them just sitting there up on the wall and, you know, giving them some two-dimensional information. Now it comes to life and they can explore it and walk around it. So there's just, I mean, I can tell you right now, there's just so many great tools here from this past year in March that I had this done. I will tell you, you can also go to 31 days of AR, VR, and EDU as a category search, because while every single day I had written about a new tool, which you're going to see right here, some of the tools that come to life, the things that I was just talking about, all of these things that were made and created and displayed for you to go back and use. You can see each day different resources on here made available to everybody. But this isn't the only time I did this. Again, I did this in 2019. And in 2019, I had the everyday content. So you're going to see a lot of this stuff coming back. So you know, you have the Merge. This was the first announcement of Merge. And then this year was really the updates of it. Apollo 11, Wallamy and Round Me, creating 360 tours, Figment AR, walking through portals, storytelling with Wonderscope. You can just see all these different concepts. And a lot of this really comes and is driven by questions from you. So as people are saying, how do I do this? Where are the tools? Hey, I'm looking for this. That's really when these types of experiences are, one, researched, and two, delivered back because they've been a demand and a request. So there's just so many amazing things to find in here. And again, all of it is linked and supported for you to just put it into place actively right away. I want to say 99% of this is actually, it's been done where you can jump into it, same day, use it. It's not a huge learning curve. Doesn't require you to have a bunch of prior knowledge. It really is just taking these resources and, you know, applying them immediately if they apply to your students and what your students need. So I'm going to stop screen sharing, but I did want you to know that that was out there. That resource, that document is there. You can, all of it is interactive. So that document you can click on and go to each of those different blogs. And, you know, that's just AR/VR and EDU as far as the 31 days. But, you know, I blog about other things. I have a lot of other articles out there that I write about, and topics that are kind of more grouped together, like just did an article that I posted on the blog as well on, you know, staying active during this crazy season. And so kind of finding ways of AR/VR getting you up and moving and being active. So there's other tools and kind of categories and topics out there as well, besides just each individual tool. So hopefully it will get you guys some resources and support to get started.
Yeah, there are so many. And I know that a lot of times whenever I do presentations, when you're with me, and then if you're not with me, if I have to be by myself, which seems to be the case lately, which is kind of sad here for sure. But I always say that the first one that I got started with, really, that had anything to do with virtual reality, was actually Nearpod, because it had those trips. And for people who are looking for something to start with, I mean, the nice thing about all of those things, there are, like Jaime said, they're changing all the time. There are constantly new ones. The fact that she did the whole month and all of these and all of that writing, and you can access that to just look at it quickly. But when I started, you know, Nearpod was a great space to start because there were lessons and things already available. And then other ones like CoSpaces or with Merge, it's not, I mean, we don't have a ton of extra time as educators. So having something that you can go and you can find a lesson, or you can find some examples, and students can just explore. That's one of the things that I tend to do a lot, is just with CoSpaces, for example, I'll have students look at the gallery and just see what other students have created to come up with some ideas, to also be able to understand what is augmented reality or virtual reality. And then I just let them decide what they want to create. And sometimes they want to create on a Merge Cube. And I know the first time I had them do it, I had not done it yet myself. So they're asking me, how do I do this? And I was like, you have to push through, keep going. And so then I came home and I figured, well, if I'm asking them to do it, I should probably do it myself. So I created something on the Merge Cube, and it keeps me going. And then another one too that you mentioned, Metaverse. It took me a really long time when I made my first Metaverse experience, but I was proud that I did it. But then once the students started, the things that they were creating, I noticed that I couldn't answer all the questions because there was so much to that you could add into it. And then I was overwhelmed because I heard teachers were using it to create assessments. And I'm thinking, how do you have all the time to do that? But my biggest concern was I wasn't able to answer all the questions. And what I noticed is I had a few students who they caught on to it so quickly, and they were adding all of these different components to it. And they had so many different experiences that one day after school, the group of them were walking by, and I said, can I talk to you for a minute? And of course they thought they were in trouble. And I said, you're not in trouble. And they went, well, that's a first, because anytime a teacher wants to talk to us, it's because we're in trouble. And I said, no, what I noticed is that you seem to enjoy creating with Metaverse. Like, oh yeah, it's really cool. And I said, I clearly don't know all of the answers, which shocked them, of course, no, I'm kidding. I always say, I don't know. But I said, I wondered if maybe you wouldn't mind helping me help your classmates. If somebody had a question, if you would answer. And they said, so we're not in trouble. And I said, no, I'm actually asking you for help. And they said, that is awesome. And so the next day they're kind of moving around answering the questions, and I could hear the answers that they were giving. So I was learning a lot quicker than had I been sitting down for myself too, to do that. And so those, a couple, let me drop them in the chat here. I mean, Nearpod is a really good way to start. Merge, of course, because you have so many options available with it. And I can even drop a couple other links in here too. Jamie's site is a wealth of knowledge, obviously. She does also have, and I keep a lot of things within arm's reach because I refer to them. Her book, her first book, I gotta say first book now, Learning Transported, is, I read it a while ago, and I've often referred people to it because if you really want to go through what is the difference between AR and VR, what are the different devices I should use, what about the headsets, what about lesson plans and ideas for my classroom, and you read through it, you feel so much more confident. Not that you wouldn't, like, if you kind of fumble through it, but let me just tell you from somebody who spent a long time trying to figure all it out, that whenever I did have her book, it was quite helpful to kind of read through and see those ideas in practice. And she does have another book that will be coming out. And coincidentally tonight, being Wednesday, I think you have your chat.
Yeah, we have our chat coming up here in a few hours. 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern. Those of you on the Pacific side, that's going to be 6 p.m. It's just 30 minutes. So you get to join in, kind of do a little mini PD, and then you're out. But you get some access to neat concepts. I'm actually doing something a little bit different tonight. I'm going to have you guys join my class in Tinkercad. And I think I saw Scott in here, so I think Scott would totally dig this, but have the kids join in Tinkercad and then talk through how to export that out for the Merge Cube. So people that, how the process of creating 3D and actually producing that in augmented reality. And sometimes it just takes the practice of just doing it. But to have people join my class, it'll be a little bit of talk through. I'm actually contemplating on whether or not I have like this Zoom on and having people join in, because I think that I can talk them through and answer a little bit easier, just the process of going through, than just, going and just having it in text in our chat. I think that this one might be a little bit more engaging to have it us talk through, but I'm excited because then I get to see inside the Merge Cube what people built just literally during our chat and see this process. But until you do it, you'll never use it. And I think there are many people are just taking what's already been built and never creating themselves. And I think that's kind of that learning curve of let's do it first, so then you can put it into action.
Yeah, let's see. Question. Oh, it's Marco. That's funny. I just saw Marco's comment in the chat. You're good. The chat, I'll drop it in. It's just like Jamie's website, which is ARVR and EDU. You just need the hashtag before it. And that is at, I'll type it in here as well, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's on Wednesdays. And yeah, every week, different idea. And a couple of weeks ago, it was just awesome, the different spaces, and to be able to, for example, you feel like you're in a meeting space or in a classroom and you can hear the people talking next to you. And as you move closer to them, you can hear their voices getting louder, or you can add in 3D objects in some of them. And so it really forces you to dive in and try something. And it's not like it takes a ton of time because it's a 30-minute chat. Although we do tend to hang on a little bit longer in some of those other ones. I think I forgot to log out the last time I came back later. Went, oh, I've been in this room
there. I did the same thing. That class was like still open for me. I know it's so fun when you get in and see each other in VR. Those are the best, when we did hubs and when we did the last one with Learn Bright, and there's other ones out there that we've been able to do as well. But really getting in, I mean, I just got a new headset that I'm testing out right now called Pico Neo 2, and it's eye tracking, which is crazy awesome. So it actually tracks as you're moving. So inside of these VR experiences, not only is it tracking your movements, it's actually tracking your blinking and where you're looking, and it's visualizing that in the virtual reality as well, which is just mind-blowing, and like where you're gazing and kind of selecting. And so the tools that we have available to us today, it's really cool. So I'm really excited, just the fact that this continues to grow. Our technology in the palm of our hands continue to amaze us and do new things. And I think there's just such an opportunity, no matter what stage you're at, no matter what tools you have available to you, there's something for everyone.
Yeah, and there was a question, how much, which one, the one that Jamie just mentioned? And Mark asked
Yeah,
about
the
prices
Pico.
too.
Yeah. So that's a good question, because one of the biggest problems with the Oculus Quest that I recommend a lot, not always, but I do recommend that one as a headset a lot, just because it is getting you up moving, you're actually active in your space. There's a lot that you can do. That one is, you know, between $400 and $500, so $399 or $499. They're very hard to find because they're made in China, which you're going to find most headsets. A lot of this technology is actually made in China. So there was a lot of problems when, you know, they've been facing the COVID situation and everything shutting down there. Even before we really got to the shutdown process, it really hindered what was happening with some of this technology. So there was a big gap between the desire to have it, you know, the demand, and actual access to having it, because they were hard to find. So if you found it, you really were finding the higher priced one for more storage, which is great still. So right around $500. But the problem is you have to buy every app. I mean, there's really very few free things in there. The Oculus Go that came out before that is not going to be a device for anybody in the future. There's no more developer support coming up this fall. There's, you know, it's really just going to kind of be in it, you know, one of those devices that will sit on your shelf. Speaking of which, mine is sitting on my shelf right back there up at the top. So it's, unfortunately, people had just went out and purchased a lot of these in their district, and they're really just going to become, you know, weights, unfortunately, but they are pretty cheap. $199 is where they started. $299 is where the higher storage was. And then, or no, it was $249. So $199 and $252 and $250 were the two price points for the storage. And they brought it down to dang near. I mean, I've seen it as low as like $99 getting it. And then as we approach this October or September or whatever time frame that they kind of shut things down, I think we'll even see that drop, just because there's just not going to be any new apps coming out, new resources coming out. I will tell you, with the Pico Neo 2, that one is going to be around $800. Now, the difference is that what schools need is management. When they're going out and buying this kind of stuff, they don't have the tools to really address kids and what they're using, what they're actively on, stopping them from going into things that maybe aren't educational or appropriate, because it's really made for an individual. It's made for home use. It's not really made for educational use. Oculus has been pretty clear with all of their decisions that it's not really made for an educational product yet. So they just created this business management and management system, but it's so expensive and it's annual. So it's like, okay, well, by the time you pay for that. So the reason why I'm even looking at the Pico Neo is really for the management side and comparing these devices, which are continuing to just improve. And what does this look like with managing multiple devices at a school, and or even having a few of those and managing them in the classroom? So that's important. You can't, you know, you just can't discount the fact that we can hand something to a kid and say, you know, let's hope they don't go in bad stuff. I mean, that happens and it's real. And same thing with the internet. Can't expect them not to go test those boundaries, right? But anyway, so those are some of the practical reasons of kind of assessing what is being produced, how it's being produced, what are the benefits, what are the limitations and such.
And I'm so sad about the Oculus Go, because I have 4 of them. I have 2 here and 2 that I got at school that we weren't able to, for whatever reason, hook up on that network there. So yeah, the ones here, I imagine I can do some things with them.
There's still some great stuff you can do. I mean, you can go to the moon, you know.
I can go to the moon.
Yeah, you absolutely can. There's some Apollo 11 has some great stuff. I don't think that you can say that it's not a good device anymore, but when you're looking at the future and making future purchases, certainly write that one off your list, just because of the support and, you know, the future of what that device means. But for right now, it's great. And you're sitting down. I think in a lot of ways, it's more practical for a classroom, because getting up and moving, while that is incredible and so much more immersive, that's also impractical for a classroom setting. Who has that kind of space to let the kids wander, especially for more than one device? Somebody's like, oh, we just bought 30 and we're going to have this classroom. I'm like, 30 running at the same time, where are they going to be? You know, they're not going to be able to walk around and explore. They're going to be sitting down. They're going to be stationary, just like the Oculus Go. And they're like, oh, I didn't even think about the space situation. So I think that there's some, you know, practicality that you got to consider when you're buying this kind of stuff, but there's good reasons to buy it. And then there's bad reasons to buy it. So really do your research before you make that move.
Yeah. And then Marco said, are they per student or can be used per class?
They can be used per class. It's per account. You're logged into an account. I know Oculus now requires it to be a Facebook account, and that is excluding some schools from being able to even have these devices. So that's another discussion coming up. But having that connection to that Facebook account and it being tied in. So when I get on my different Oculus devices, I can get in and say, hey, Rachelle, you want to come watch a movie with me? We can hop on and we can watch through Netflix and watch, I don't know, any movie we want, right? And something with cats, I'm sure. But, you know, then we get in and we're sitting there like in this space that's customized for us. It's just a really cool space to have your friends come out and hang out with and be able to watch and talk through and kind of be in this virtual experience, which is trippy. Because when I first bought the Oculus Go, I said, hey kids, go in here, go to the sharks, go to this. And I'm guiding them on what to do. And then as time went on, I started noticing it was never like the batteries were always out. I'm like, where is that device? One day I'm walking and I like gradually see something out of the corner of my eye and there's my son sitting in his bed with the headset on. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm on Netflix. Like, why? The TV's right there. Like, why are you on Netflix and headset? And something about just really that secluded space that's personalized for them, that is just what they want to watch without all the other distractions around them. I think there's something to be said about the power of using VR in some of those instances, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I laugh whenever you say about watch Netflix because I've never watched Netflix. So I have no idea. There was
no connection.
I mean, like there was a list on artificial intelligence a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about it. And there was a list of 10 things, like 10 ways that we all tend to use, most people use AI every day. And I said, I will never get a 10 because I've never seen anything on Netflix. I don't have time. I mean, I'm looking at a screen often, a lot, but it's actually the computer. So, but I do remember, and as we wrap up here, I do remember the first time that I used the Oculus Go, and I joined in with you and Brian Costello, and I can't remember who the
we played games. Was it?
We did, and I was sitting in not this chair, but in the same space, and
maybe
because
Steve?
It might have been Steve, and I had it on, and I kept hitting my knees off of my desk because in the space that I wasn't sitting at the desk. So it was not the greatest idea. I was like, you had pictures on the wall and I could hear you. It was unbelievable. So,
and I lost every game, every time.
Yeah.
Like those games are, you know, I lose. Anyways, you guys were laughing at me about how bad I was at some of those games too. And then I was like, let's live stream this so everybody can see. So we live streamed it. We'll come to find out when you live stream from your own account, all they can hear is me. So I sound like a total idiot talking to you guys, them never hearing the response and, you know, making fun of myself as I lost every game. But it was fun. You know, there's just so many improvements and so many experiences that we're going to be able to, you know, encounter as time goes on as these resources. And Apple to release their glasses is next. And I really think that is going to be when the curve really just jumps light years ahead. That's supposed to be 2021. It was supposed to be 2020, but with everything that hit, that prolonged it. But it could be that they announce this fall for next year and releasing something with their Apple glasses.
Very cool. So, all right. Well, we will wrap up. And I think there was one other, and the dizziness. I noticed that with the one thing with a lot of students, like even with Oculus Go, they didn't have that same kind of motion, that feeling with it. So it definitely has been something that has improved. And I'm sure Jaime knows way more than me about that.
Yeah. Well, the 3 degrees of freedom, 6 degrees of freedom is what they're calling it. And 6 degrees of freedom just means you can move forward, backwards, you can jump up, you can go down. You really have access to all those different directions. It's picking up all of those directions as you're moving. Those experiences like the Quest make you a lot less nauseous because it really aligns to your movement better. Whereas in the Oculus Go, you're having to click to move, click to move, click to move. And that really just does something. Your brain's kind of like, well, this isn't right. Something's not right here. I don't like it. I'm going to throw up. So that unfortunately with some of those, especially the quality, the better quality, the better your brain does with it. The movement has to be so closely aligned with the movement of your head. And even though you may not recognize it, if it's not really closely aligned with your movement, then it actually puts you into that nauseous feeling very quickly. So that's all of those factors come into play, which is why they have age limits on them. So don't put them on littles. And there's just a lot of factors, but certainly being nauseous is one of them with headsets.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining in today with Jaime. I did drop, and Scott's gone right now, but I had just was waiting to drop in your podcast you just had with Scott that he shared out earlier. So there's that link.
Nice.
And for anybody, I will, under the session description for this on the Learning Revolution site, I will post the links to Jaime's blog. And I think I actually already did that, but I'll make sure, I'll double check. And I think I have the hashtag there for her chat. So anybody who's on Twitter, coming up in 3 hours and 11-ish minutes from wherever you are, you can join in the AR, VR, and EDU chat. So thank you, Jaime, for being here today.
Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you for joining in.
Yeah, and I'm going to stop.